Hello. Today is Monday, November the 13th, 2023. My name is Atimaneda George. My preference is Dr. G, and I'm working on a project called Playing the Angels Game, the perspective of Black Foreign Service women. And we have a special guest, and I will ask her, Jazmian, to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her. So, Jazmian, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Ateem. Um, as stated, I'm Jazmian. I'm Jazmian D. Allen, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. I currently work as a Foreign Service Officer for USAID. I'm an agriculture officer. Um, as I'm an ag economist by trade. But for the most part, within USAID, I focus a lot on Feed the Future, the initiative that was put in place by President Barack Obama. And overall, I've been with USAID for about 8 years, just about 8 years. And before I did work with Peace Corps after I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Malawi.
Excuse me, was that Malawi you said?
Yes, I was in Malawi as a Peace Corps volunteer.
Wonderful. Okay. How long have you been in Nigeria?
Great. I am in Nigeria. This is my second post. I've been here for about I'm not in Nigeria right now. I'm in Ghana for a conference that starts tomorrow. But I have been posted to Nigeria since August of 21, and I'll leave next summer in June. Before Nigeria, I was posted in West Africa Regional Office for USAID, which is located here, where I am now in Ghana, where I was here for 4 years.
Could you give us a sense of what an agricultural economist does, how you got into it, and what you find most compelling about your work?
Okay, great question. So I would say ag economist was not the track that I was going on. I'm from Los Angeles. The Central Valley of California are farmers, but Los Angeles, we are not. However, the farm was calling me. I went to Tuskegee University, which is a historically Black college and university.
My grandfather graduated from Tuskegee, class of 1912, so I had to, give a shout out. Yes.
Oh, wow. That makes this even more special. But I went to Tuskegee. I went pre-vet. So my undergrad is a pre-veterinarian degree, pre-vet in poultry science. However, the beauty that I like a lot about HBCUs is even if you don't seek out somebody to be your mentor, somebody will approach you to be your mentor. And I actually had a professor throughout my undergrad, because I was so passionate about, I guess, agriculture or just getting involved with agriculture. I started working on our K Prime Research Center at the K Prime Research Center, which is a goat farm. And I was working there every morning, like 6 to 8 in the morning, then we'll go to class. And I'm doing research there. And I did that for about 3 years. So close to when it was time for me to graduate, one of the professors who was really the one who led the internship that I had, or it was like student study. It's like a student job. So who he led it, his name was Dr. Noble. Dr. Noble was amazing, very intelligent man. Left Tuskegee and went to become the dean for North Carolina A&T in agriculture. Anyway, so I'm digressing. But he said, okay, we have the vet school here at Tuskegee, And you can go, they have a summer program so you can get an idea of how it would be your first year as a veterinarian in the vet school. And so I took that program, and when I was in that program during the summer, I realized I didn't want to be a veterinarian. I work much better with preventative care. I focus more effectively when blood is not gushing at me. I just as an empath, I'm an extreme empath, so it's just something that just makes me, I can feel every bit of what the animal or person, whomever, is feeling. So as a result, I said, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Because my whole life I was going to be a veterinarian and move back to Los Angeles and be a vet, have my own vet practice. And so I said, okay, I want to still stay with agriculture. I want to still stay with animals, but I want to look at it from the business side. And that's how I got into ag econ. While I was in graduate school, my advisor in grad school, he actually worked for the World Bank for like 30 years, retired, and then came to Tuskegee to teach. And so Dr. Nganju, that's his name, he told me while we were in our little sessions as an advisor and the student, he said, you know, you can work in sustainable development. And I was like, what is that? I have no idea what that is. Because I, you know, just the vet focus, I didn't know what that was. And he said, yeah, you can travel the world, live in different countries, experience different cultures, and help people have better lives. And I was like, oh, sign me up. That's exactly what I would be happy to do that. Being from Los Angeles, we have people from so many places that live in Los Angeles. While I was in high school, like people from all over the world went to my high school. It wasn't just like Black, white, Asian, or Latino. It was people from so many places that I never heard, and you meet them while you're a student. And so I've always been interested in culture and learning and adapting and respecting. And so yeah, I said, okay, that's what I wanted to do. I did it. He put me in place to get an internship with USA. This was in 2006. I interned for the summer, and then ultimately graduated. And I didn't want to go into foreign service at first. I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur. That didn't go right. So then I moved on to looking into Peace Corps, which I also didn't know about while I was in grad school. But a fellow intern told me while I was interning with USA, she said, oh, I'm going to go to Peace Corps. And I was like, great, excellent. That sounds nice. Good for you. Because I didn't know what it was. And so when I was back in Los Angeles, because the entrepreneur venture I was going to do, it was going to be sustainable development, but on my own, it fell through. So I reached out to that intern, my friend, and I asked her, what is this Peace Corps thing? She sent me sent me the website. I applied that night, and I was in Malawi within 4 months.
Wow.
And so
yeah. Like serious fast track.
I'm a very persistent and determined person. So even the application took me about 8 hours to do, and I did it that night, just straight. And so so yeah, then I went to Malawi, and Malawi gave me the overseas experience that I needed to get into international positions, because I was applying before I did Peace Corps, but nobody would offer me a job because they said I didn't have the overseas experience. And I was like, well, how do I get the overseas experience if you don't give me the job? But ultimately I did Peace Corps. And then just to go kind of in line with what we're discussing today, while I was in Peace Corps, I really struggled. I didn't know what Peace Corps was. I really go into a lot of things with an open mind and open heart, just ready to learn and grow. The thing is, in Malawi, when you start as a Peace Corps volunteer, they give you like 3 months of training to help you adapt to the culture, learn the language. and become familiar with your new setting, your new country, the way of living. There in Malawi, I had no electricity, no running water. So adjusting to that from coming from the US, and then teaching me all those skills that I needed to know. However, in the training sessions, they would mostly talk about being a white American and being a volunteer. And so in my group, it was two women of color in my group. And Kendall, she wouldn't always say anything, but I would be like, okay, it's great to hear what will happen to them, but what will happen to me? What are some of the things that I'm going to experience in the field? Because I am a person who may look like them, but I'm different. And I got no answers in training. But what they do towards the end of training is they send you to the site that you'll be going to, and they allow you to be there to get adjusted and find out where your house is, meet your counterpart, your coworker who you'll be working with, and just get ready to move to your new place. So where I was put about 50 miles off the paved road, really, really remotely. Finally get to my village, Chulu village in Kasungu, Malawi. And I find my counterpart. He has like a store and like a house, and everybody knows him, Chigweyu. I go to his house. He sits me down in his living room. He tells me, okay, I'll be back. He left me in that living room for about maybe 2 hours. And I was like, oh, well, maybe he's really busy. Because I was like, I did come in the middle of the day. Maybe he had a lot of stuff going on. But he left me in his house. I was sitting in his living room, just waiting. When he came back and said to me, okay, you say you're a Peace Corps volunteer, but where is the real Peace Corps volunteer, the white American? And I said to him, sir, I am your Peace Corps volunteer. I am American, and I am here to work in this community. Can you please show me where my house is? And from that time, it started where I started to look at ignorance in a different light. I was looking at ignorance as, these people don't want to know. They just, they're just difficult people. However, I looked at ignorance as they don't know. And if you have the capacity to teach them, you should teach them, and you should help them understand who you are and why you are there. And so on a regular basis with Chigweyu, I would have conversations about being Black, being American, going to a school who had all Black people at my school, just telling him more about the culture so he can learn who I was as a person and not think that I am going to be fit into a box of what he has perceived for Americans. And so that even led me to something else happened while I was in Peace Corps. I was in the process of dating a Malawian. And we were sitting outside of a transit house that was for Peace Corps volunteers to stay in. And we're sitting outside of this house, just having a conversation. I actually told the guards I was sitting outside when I walked out. But what happened was the country directors, which is the head of Peace Corps, his daughter was in town. And he wanted to bring her, she's in her 20s. So he wanted to bring her to hang out with the volunteers. And so he drove in and drove her in or whatever. And he saw that we were sitting there, and I just ignored it. And then he came out and left and did whatever. I continued with my conversation. And then about 5 or 10 minutes later, it was embassy security with guns at the car and a stick saying, this is a place where diplomats live. You can't sit outside here. And so I was like, what? And I got so angry. I got out the car. I was like, well, I must be a diplomat because I'm staying in this house. And I don't appreciate you putting a gun and a stick, because it was a stick too, a gun and a stick in my face and my friend's face, as if we are creating some major offense of sitting out here. was very angry. It really affected me in a negative way. And ultimately, I ended up going and requesting a one-on-one with the country director and letting him know that I was sitting in that car and that he also had volunteers that look like the Malawians that are here. And so you have to be sensitive to that. It was inappropriate for you to do that. And then that conversation, it led to me starting a diversity committee. That diversity committee started off really small with myself and a group of people, but they finished their service. So then it was just me. But essentially I would go to the incoming trainings and for the new cohorts, and I would train them on diversity. I would say, these are things that are going to happen because you're older. These are things because you're Asian. These are things because you're Black. These are things because you're Latino. Like, this is what's going to happen for everyone. And people who are not of this background, because of the difficulties that come for the minorities who are not going to get an easy landing, like the people of the white volunteers that are here. The white volunteers, I encourage them to be allies and to support their fellow volunteers. So long story short, sorry. So that was the beginning of me having a big focus in my career in diversity. And it actually diverted me from going straight into going into foreign service. And it had me, I worked for Peace Corps for 4 years where I focused on diversity recruitment.
In Washington at headquarters?
So I initially was in the Bay Area. So Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area, where I covered San Francisco, the Central Valley, because that's where a lot of farmers are, and then Las Vegas. And then after a while, I moved to DC, and I worked there for about 2 years before I became an officer.
Mm-hmm. Where did you go to graduate school? You mentioned graduate school, but I'm not sure where you went.
I stayed at Tuskegee. I went there straight through.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And you said you essentially went into Peace Corps and actually spent, I guess, more time than you originally anticipated because you saw the need to raise consciousness and help people to understand a dynamic that they obviously were oblivious to. So
I didn't stay in Malawi, but I left Peace Corps, but then I went to work for them. So I wasn't volunteering. I was actually an employee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how the leap from Peace Corps staff to USAID staff? Foreign Service Officer, actually.
Yes. It was that's a good question. It was interesting. I mean, the first, when you start as a Foreign Service Officer, they give you about 6 weeks of training where they get you familiar with USAID, and the way we work, etc. And then you go. When I started, after that, I went into a series of different trainings that I had to take in order to do my job effectively. So I did that. And then I went into language training. I did French language training. That was one of the hardest things that I've done in my life. It definitely challenged my intelligence on a regular basis. On a regular basis, I would question how intelligent I was and if I was just tricking myself. But I went into language training. I struggled through that a lot. And I would say that I didn't know too much. I didn't talk to many Foreign Service officers before I became one. And so when I was in language training and I wasn't doing well, I thought I was gonna lose my job. So I was like nervous about losing my job and nervous about just not doing well because it was difficult. Literally, you go from 0 to 100 in language training because you go from very basic to debating. And for somebody who hadn't studied languages extensively, I did Spanish in high school, but I didn't do any language after that. It was very challenging, and I wish I would have had people to tell me, like, you know, I've also struggled with language. I've also had a hard time, especially with French. French and Spanish at FSI, Foreign Service Institute, is known for being the difficult languages to take. But actually, when I didn't pass the third time I took the test, they connected me with other people who didn't pass as well. And that really helped me. And also it happened to be nice that some of them were of color. And that really helped me because I was like, oh my God, I'm failing at a job that I just started. I can't believe I'm not doing well. So it was a big challenge. So I would say overall, the landing was pretty nice. It's definitely different from Peace Corps, the way we work at USAID. But the training really did help me a lot to get very familiar with USAID pretty fast. But theory is great, but it's always better in practice. I definitely learned much more when I got into the field.
So was your first assignment a Francophone country?
So the West Africa Regional Mission is, yes, it's in Ghana, which is English. However, it's regional, so it's Francophone, Anglophone, and Lusophone. So all those languages are spoken within West Africa. So a requirement for the position is French, because French is most dominant, French and English.
Mm-hmm. So with that regional assignment, what were some of the countries you covered, and what were some of the issues that you tackled?
Okay. So with the regional assignment, I didn't cover specific countries. What we did in the regional office, we really supported other offices. And like I said, I'm Feed the Future, or agriculture, I'm an agriculture officer, backstop 10. And as an agriculture officer and Feed the Future focused, we work with Feed the Future countries, and more as we supported them. We supported them how they needed to be supported with their activities. In addition to, we would convene. We're very strong conveners. We would convene people to have meetings and discussions that need to be had. But overall, that position was focused in policy, working with Economist, which is the economic, like West Africa, it's pretty much the agency for economic growth within West Africa. And so we work with them on policy issues in agriculture, so focusing on food security, people having access to food, looking at the policies for nutrition, looking at the policies for agriculture, fertilizer, things that are big ticket numbers are very political for the agriculture area. So that's what I focused a lot on in West Africa. While I was there, I worked on a fertilizer activity that we had to have for West Africa to have better access to fertilizer, and fertilizer that could be beneficial for them in the countries that they are, with the soils that they have, and to build the capacity of a West Africa like fertilizer group, so that they are able to advocate more for farmers throughout the region. I also, not all the way directly connected, I worked on a private sector activity, two private sector activities, a private sector design and a private sector activity. The private sector activity that I worked on was called Global Shea Alliance. And Global Shea Alliance essentially they had, I want to say the acronym, but I don't want to say it because I don't know the definition. But they had a like partnership with USAID, where we matched how much they invested into their activity, and they focused on shea nut collection for shea butter, and they also focused on trees, like planting trees and storage. And they also, it was a big focus of connecting these small business or smallholder farmers to large corporations like Shea Moisture, not Shea Moisture, yeah, Shea Moisture, L'Oreal, Bugsby. Is it Bugsby? The lip balm that is, I can't think of the name correctly. Anyway, with large corporations in the US, in the Western world, and giving them an opportunity to get a better rate for their shea nuts and also have better quality shea nuts, and processing abilities. So value add as well. So I worked on that activity. And then the design that I worked on was private sector as well, and it was focused in local solutions. So that's a big push for USAID at this point, to be very inclusive of local organizations, local businesses, and because we see it as USAID, we see it as being something that's going to be more sustainable in the long run, opposed to having implementing partners come in, doing a five-year activity and then leaving. Whereas if you look locally, these local people actually live in that area, they're familiar with the area, they're embedded more. It doesn't take as long to gain the trust of the community so that they work with you. So that activity was for private sector, and it was a regional activity or design, and it was focused on helping these private sector organizations have access to finance, share best practices, and learn from each other, and to build the capacity so that we would help build their capacity so that they could be more effective in the work that they were doing. So I would say in that regional office, things, it just varied. I also worked on some nutrition areas. And I would say in my job in general, I do what is needed. I wouldn't say everything that I do is only agriculture focused, but I will say that that's the foundation of a lot of the things that I do. But I think as a Foreign Service officer, we just have to be adaptable, and not only adaptable in our work, but also in how we live. I mean, we move every 2 to 4 years. So just overall, in general, if you don't know it, you'll learn it. And you'll learn it quickly, and then you'll do it well.
Well, it sounds so very fascinating and very important work. Let's pivot to Nigeria. Tell me about some of the work that you're doing here, what you find really engaging. What are some of the challenges?
Sure. So Nigeria is definitely very different from the regional mission I was working in. Regional is different. Like I said, it's policy, it's higher level. You're looking at a different level. Nigeria is national level, and then even all the way down to the grassroots. So I'm still in Nigeria working on the Feed the Future initiative. And one thing that drives Feed the Future initiative in each country that is Feed the Future focused country is our global food security strategy. The global food security strategy determines how we will create programming and how we will work in the specific country. In Nigeria, the strategies that was in place was from 2018 to 2023. So since I've been here, for the last year, I've been developing the new strategy with my team in Washington for the next 5 years, so 2024 to 2029. Right now, it's in the process of going through clearance. It has been cleared through through interagency, and now it's going to the leadership in the Bureau of Resilience and Environment and Food Security. they just added environment. That's why I laughed, because before it was just resilience and food security, and so now it's resilience, environment, and food security. It's going through clearance with the front office there, and then it would go to our ambassador in Nigeria. That new strategy is, truthfully, I would say it builds off the one that we had in 2018. It looks at what worked and what are some pivots and changes that we needed to make. And we definitely considered that in designing this new strategy. We also had to take into consideration a lot of things that happen in Nigeria on a regular basis, which really affects Nigeria as a whole. Shocks and stresses is a norm for Nigerians. Like resilience, people are born resilient when they're Nigerian. Because there's so many things that happen. It could be something like as extreme as Boko Haram, or still extreme as a drought or a flood. And that really negatively affects people in a way where it can displace them. It can put them in a place of poverty, of more extreme poverty, because a lot of people are living in poverty already. And it can really destabilize people for long periods of time. So moving forward, we're looking to create programming and activities that strengthen the people's ability to bounce back from shocks and stresses. Looking at gaps in value chains, seeing where the gaps are. It could be between the processor and the smallholder farmer. It can be within the value add. It can be whatever it is. Looking at the one that is most prominent in that area and really building that capacity out so it's stronger, and it creates something that will give more opportunities for smallholder farmers and for even largeholder farmers and producers and processors. At this point, I will say for agriculture in Nigeria, in our programming, we're not necessarily looking very strong into exporting. It is something that we're hoping to work up to, building their capacity in terms of the quality of the products that they're producing or commodities that they're producing, and the quantity. And when it gets to a place where it's definitely able to feed the 210 plus million Nigerians, and it gets to a place where it has the quality to really meet standards. A lot of work that I do, I mean, I have a team, my team manages activities and I work with them. The team that I have is brand new, which is not a common thing for Foreign Service. Usually
Sorry, would you say that again? Your team you have is what?
I have a team of about 4 people.
Uh-huh. You used the term that I didn't quite get. That's why I was asking you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't know what I said. The team, I was just saying I have a team of about 4 or 5 people. The team is fairly new. So they've been working with USAID for under 2 years, which is not a norm, because typically as Foreign Service officers, when you come in, you're really kind of piggybacking off the Foreign Service nationals that are living and working there, because they're familiar with the background, they know everything that's going on, and they can really get you up to speed pretty quickly so you can do your job effectively. But in my case, right now, when I came in as the Feed the Future coordinator for Nigeria, I was by myself with one other Foreign Service national, and so a local employee. And they had only been with the agency about 6 months. And so the 2 of us were managing a $250 million portfolio. And it was very intense because I'm at the same time building his capacity and helping him be very strong in his new job, while managing a lot of activities at one time. And so from there, I continued to build his capacity while hiring other positions, and now I'm up to the 4 people that I have now. A lot of my job right now, because the team is fairly new, is focusing on developing them and helping them be more familiar with USAID, how USAID writes, which is difficult because it's difficult. It's a task that's even hard for me to even fathom to require somebody to do, because if you're raised in a culture where you've only been learning British English and that's what you know, you know it very well. And then here I come in and say, nope, you gotta think like American English writers, because some of the things that British, some of the information that are words that are used within the British context are not used within the US context. And so that is a challenge in itself. Also, I focus a lot on building relationships with the ministry staff, with the Ministry of Agriculture and Budget, I would say. Building strong relationships with them, seeing how we can partner, how we align. That's how that strategy, the new strategy that we're designing, that's how that strategy was created. We're making sure that what we're doing is going to complement what the government of Nigeria is looking to do. But overall, I mean, I would say whatever comes up, I do. We have to always report to Washington so that the legislation knows what we're doing and they feel confident in the work that we're doing, and give them great feedback of the activities we have going on, and make sure that it's beneficial, that the American dollars that are being spent in Nigeria are benefiting people, and how many people it's benefiting. So.
Fantastic. Let's pivot a little bit to your personal experience as a Black woman in the U.S. Agency for International Development.
Sure.
Has the welcome mat been placed out there? If so, is it very clear to you that there is a welcome mat? And what kinds of experiences would you point to either say yes or no about this proverbial welcome mat?
Thank you. Excellent question. I would say the mat is there, and it's sometimes there and it's sometimes not. I don't know. It has definitely been times where I've said to myself, I don't know if foreign service is right for me. In foreign service, you know, you have no secrets, because everything you do has to be kind of like your personal life. You have no personal life, private life. And so I would say it's a blur between personal life and work life, because the thing is everybody thinks that you have to be their friend, even though that you want to create boundaries between your work and life. And depending on how you build the relationship, that can depend on how effective you could possibly be in foreign service. And for me, that's sometimes completely correct and sometimes it's not. For me, I like to have a private life as well as my personal life. Professional life. And so sometimes I struggle because I don't always attend all the gatherings that everybody goes to. I don't always do what most people do because I like to have a balance. And that I can say sometimes it has made things hard for me. Also, something that's very prominent within foreign service is your corridor. What is it? Your corridor?
Reputation.
Reputation.
Mhm.
So the corridor reputation is interesting because me as a person, I seek to be a positive experience for anyone that I come in contact with. I seek to learn and grow. I seek to be my authentic self in every way possible, consistently on a regular basis. And um, and what you get is who I am. It's not, you're not going to get a surprise of who I am. And I would say with the corridor reputation, in a way, it tried to hurt me, but you can't, because I'm always going to be authentic in who I am. When I was in West Africa, I had a supervisor, and the supervisor, um, I will say this: not everybody is a manager. That's what I want to say. And as a result, every time I would go and meet with them, I would always give a rundown. I'll have an agenda prepared. I'll give a rundown of what I'm working on, what is going on. And then I would ask always, every single meeting, is there anything else that I can do? I'm looking to take on more leadership roles as a Foreign Service officer. I think that's essential because we have to grow in this position. Our job is to be the leader in most places that we are. So on a regular basis, I'll say, what can I work on? How can I be better in my job? How can I do better in my job? And can I please have more leadership roles? And this was every meeting. And we met maybe every month or maybe every 2 weeks. She never gave me anything. So a lot of times I would work around her, go find other stuff that I can do so that I can still learn and grow in my profession. But then what happened was, so as Foreign Service officers, we get rated, and we kind of compete for promotions. And in the evaluation period, after a year of me doing whatever she gave me, even if it was scraps, I put my best into it and I turned it into something great. I did my best in whatever I did. I do my best in whatever I do. And it came evaluation time, and they had just changed the system a bit, and it required the supervisors to say, I recommend this officer for promotion. And she wouldn't write it. And this was right when COVID was happening, like right around the time that COVID was about to happen. No, we had just started COVID, so everything was virtual. So she didn't write it, and I wrote her back, and I was like, well, can you please tell me a reason why? I don't understand why you wouldn't consider me, why I couldn't be considered for promotion. But she didn't give me a reason. So I kept asking, and then I wrote her a list of things that I've done that I felt were promotion worthy. And I kept asking her, she just was not responding to those emails. And so ultimately I told her, because my emails, I kept emailing her because I wasn't getting a response. And then I was like, okay, because we don't have any more time, I'll just submit my evaluation. And I wasn't promoted. I wasn't promoted that round. And I felt like that was unfair, because I felt like I was definitely eligible to be promoted or to be considered for promotion. And what I will say, that supervisor went on, and as I was preparing to go to Nigeria, what happens when you're bidding, which you're familiar with, but when you're bidding, you're kind of like applying for a new job. You have to network, you have to talk to people, give them resumes, they talk to some of your references, they get to know you. So it's a lot of things that go into it. And the director for the office that I was going to in Nigeria, I believe he spoke with my past supervisor, and she obviously didn't give me a good reference, because when I got there, he had preconceived notions of who I was, and it was incorrect. completely incorrect. And it made it challenging for me to do my work. It made it challenging for me to adjust to the new post. He called me and well, we had a meeting. And in that meeting, he told me I wasn't adaptable. It's hard for people to work with me, and that I don't take feedback well. And I was like, nobody has ever told me that. I was like, as soon as I hear the feedback, I start to work on making that better and to be better and to work harder. And what I'll say, since I said that, is as a Black woman in foreign service, I work probably 50 times harder than my white counterparts. On a regular basis, I'm always working. I'm always I'm always running circles around my colleagues who get more acknowledgement than me. And it's challenging because I am putting in so much effort to do my best, and it's not always being acknowledged. And maybe people who don't put as much effort do get acknowledged. But what I do and what I stand by is just, like I said, authentically being me. I'm always going to do my best. I'm always going to try my hardest and produce the best quality product, whatever that product may be, in whatever I do. And so even if some people have preconceived notions or have bad energy, like they give me bad energy, I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to work hard. And I'm always, the light always shines. But it has been challenging.
Yes, and as I listen, I can think about my own experiences as a Foreign Service officer. And, it's so interesting how frequently we are painted with the angry Black woman brush. Okay. For example, when I was serving in Costa Rica, one of my Costa Rican colleagues came to me maybe about 5-6 months in, and she basically said, Ateem, we asked around about you before you came, and they were saying, oh, she's difficult, she's this, she's that. She said, I don't recognize the person they were describing, Mm-hmm. So I hear you in terms of saying, I'm going to be authentically me, mm-hmm. and I'm going to give you my best. Mm-hmm. And then that way I can live with myself, and I know I've given you my best, So I hear you, and I say more power to you.
Thank you.
We're about wrapping up, although honestly, I would love to have another conversation with you at some point before this program ends, just to see if you have any other reflections. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to the future, to those young girls, those young boys who in the future, the 21st century and beyond, will be assuming responsibilities as U.S. diplomats. What do you want to say to them as they prepare?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that question as well. I will say in my life, I've always looked at it as, okay, I went through the hard time. And so I want to share with everybody else as much as possible so that they don't have to go through it. And so on a regular basis, I definitely highly encourage it. You don't even have to know me, but if you're a person of color and you're saying you're interested in foreign service, I am more than happy to have a conversation with you, and a real conversation about what you would experience. But what I would say, for what I say to most people, most youth that do come to me interested in foreign service, is if it is something that you want to do, you should absolutely do it. Understand that it will not be a regular lifestyle. It won't be a lifestyle that might be You won't have that white picket fence with the dog and staying in one place for one period of time, but you will learn a lot. You'll learn a lot of cultures, and as much as you open your heart, you will become a better person, a well-rounded person, a person who cares about others, a person who releases that self-centeredness and allows things to be what they are. Foreign service it is a pleasure to be in foreign service. I enjoy traveling. Like I remember when I was a small child and I would look into the sky and watch planes fly by. And I would say, I would love to be on that plane. And that was like literally like maybe 6 or 7. I always looked into the sky because I always knew it was so much more. And in being in foreign service, I've been able to see so much more. It's a lot of benefits that comes with it, but there are definitely a lot of pros and cons that you have to weigh. But I will say, after coming, I am in Ghana right now, and I just came back from Belize for vacation. And I've been to so many places that most people from Los Angeles, where I'm from, on my block, would never go, have never been. Some of them have never even left our block. So what I'm saying, this gives you an opportunity to experience something more, look at the world differently, and be a better you.
Thank you so very much. It has been a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege to speak with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Turn